Hi guys, this is gonna be basically a basic tutorial on some of my workflows for when I come to composite a render I've done. Now this render, I've just done a basic quick render out of Unreal. It doesn't really matter which you've rendered it out of. I'm just going to go through to try and make it look more cinematic than game, really. A lot of it's about degrading the footage to make it look more cinematic. First off, what I have done, because I've rendered out 239, if I just solo this a minute, I do tend to render out the cine bars. I put it over the top of everything so it doesn't get affected by any effects or anything like that. Right, I've also added, just for quickness, a dust layer. Let's just turn off transparency. Just a dust layer, because I think this sort of image would have some form of dust, which all it's done is set to screen. Okay, so first things first, I often find when these renders come out of whatever render engine, they tend to be highly saturated. So I'm going to do a new adjustment now. Now this doesn't matter to whatever software you use. This is just my principle of my workflow. So whether you're in Nuke or Resolve, just apply similar principles to it. And I do use a lot of third-party software because it does make my life easier, but there are free alternatives out there. So first off, I'm just using a program called Colorista, and I go in there. Basically what we're going to do is just make sure that the black levels are where they should be and not clipped. The white levels, if we go right at the top, you can see they're clipping, so just bring it back to stop it clipping. And midtones, and the contrast as well. And then just bring the saturation to where you think. Obviously, if you're using this program, you don't want to go too far because it starts to clip everything. I tend to not let it go out of this level here, about there sort of thing. But use your eye. So that's my first step. I also like to add a vignette, which also draws your attention to the subject. So I'm just going to go to vignette, add a vignette of 30. Next thing, layer, new adjustment layer. Now you should rename these, but for the sake of the tutorial, I'm not going to. And the next effect I'm going to do is I'm going to add a color LUT to this. So again, I'm going to use, where are we? I'm going to use Magic Bullet Looks, but again, you can use Lumetri or whichever effect you want to use. Now I'm going to keep everything to default, again, just for the sake of the tutorial. Well, I want to give this a sort of warm, so I'm going to go for something like Marrakesh, and I'm going to keep that near enough, and I'm going to click OK. And I do tend to never have anything at 100%, so I tend to drag it down to 0, look at the screen until something looks pleasing to the eye. So I'm going to go with 77%. So again, I'm going to add layer, new adjustment layer, effect. Going into this one basically is to do with contrast and stuff. And I'm going to go to Mojo, and I'm going to switch it to video. Again, going to leave it at default, but again, I'm going to bring it down. It's just all about bringing in contrast, so you can use curves or levels, whichever you like. Okay, the next one, layer, new adjustment layer. I'm going to add a little bit of chromatic aberration, and again, I'm going to leave this at default and just go down to 0 opacity and just bring it up a little bit till it starts to distort, which is what happens in real lenses. Just a little bit. Okay. The next one I'm going to add is, go down here, I'm going to add some noise. Now, one of my favorite things is Renoiser, because it doesn't just add a uniform noise over everything, it analyzes it and see where the noise is used. I'm just going to, again, there's many grain programs out there. I'm just going to use what's called Kung Fu. Again, I like the look of it. It's quite cinematic. It's very cinematic. Then you go layer, new, adjustment layer, effect, and the next one I'm going to use is I'm going to add a little bit of camera shake. So again, as I said before, there are many camera shake applications out there. Production grade do some great ones. So I'm just going to click camera shake, handheld is what I'm using, and I just want to literally just bring it down to 20%, so that you've just got some movement going on in there. The next one, layer, new, adjustment layer. I always like to add extra motion blur. I tend to find whichever thing you render it out in, it's never quite as good as I would like it. And the one best plugin I couldn't do without, and it's worth every penny, is Real Smart Motion Blur, because that goes frame by frame to analyze the footage to give you that extra motion blur. So that is just basically a quick walkthrough of some of the processes I do when I'm sort of doing a composition. You can also go in and add, let's say, layer, new adjustment layer again, and there is one out there called let's have a look, Dehancer Pro. Now I tend to turn, if I'm using this, I tend to turn most of these things off. The only thing, I'm just checking which ones are enabled and which ones aren't. But you can go through and look at the documentation and see which each one does. I don't want film grain again, as I've already added it. But again, a little bit of halation, which again happens in cameras. You can see if I turn it on and off. I just go over to something that's a bit more. Let's have a look. Let's just go down and enable it. It's subtle, but again, it just adds that extra depth. And also bloom, which be careful because it can be overused. That does. Again, I'm leaving these on the defaults, but you tweak them as much as you want. Okay, so that's just a basic workflow that I often use to composite an image when I render it out. I'm going to now just show you the before and after video footage. Let me know if this is of interest. So it's just a quick tutorial, and yeah, see you next time. Bye.